Nope. All we hear is silence. In effect, the entire Senate Democratic Conference has surrendered the jobs, wages, and livelihoods of their constituents to a group of special interest meeting in secret at the White House. What Congress has refused to pass, and the American people have rejected time and again, they are plotting at the White House, maybe even more so today, to do it anyway, no matter what the people think, no matter what Congress, the People's House, votes on. Politico reports that White House officials have conducted more than 20 meetings in the White House. I doubt they've had 20 meetings on ISIS. 20 meetings in the White House and in July and August with legal experts, immigration advocates, business leaders to gather ideas on what should be included in the order. Now that's a quote from the Politico magazine. 20 meetings with legal experts, immigration advocates, business leaders to gather ideas on what should be included in the order. So who are these so-called experts, advocates, and business leaders? They're not the law enforcement officers. They're not our ICE officers. They're not our Border Patrol officers. They're not the American working man and woman. They're not unemployed Americans. They weren't in the room. You can be sure of that. Their opinions weren't sought. No, White House officials are meeting with the world's most powerful and corporate immigration lobbyists and activists who think border controls are for the little people. We know better. The administration is meeting with the elite, the cosmopolitan set, who scorn and mock the concerns of everyday Americans, concerned about their schools, jobs, wages, communities, hospitals. These great and powerful citizens of the world, we know, don't care much about old-fashioned things like national boundaries, national sovereignty, immigration controls, let alone the constitutional separation of powers, or even the consistent and even-handed enforcement of plain law passed by the elected representatives of the American people in due fashion. Well, see, don't you get it? They believe they're always supposed to get whatever it is that they want. They're used to that. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, one report says they've spent $1.5 billion since 2007 trying to pass their desired immigration bill. $1.5 billion. Whatever they want, they think, is good for America. They tried and tried and tried to go through Congress, but the American people said no, no, no. So they decided, well, we'll just go to the president. We'll go to President Obama, and we'll insist that he implement these measures through executive fiat. And Senate Democrats apparently have said, well, that's just a wonderful idea. We support that. Just do it. Go big. But, Mr. President, wait a little bit. Wait till after the election. We don't want the voters to hold us accountable for what you're doing. We want to pretend we in the Senate have nothing to do with it. So one of the groups that's joined the chorus of special interest demanding executive satisfaction on immigration is Forward.us. Forward.us is the group run by Facebook guru, CEO Mark Zuckerberg. I think he just turned 30, worth about $28 billion, I understand. Mr. Zuckerberg has been very busy recently. One of his fellow billionaires, Mr. Carlos Slim, maybe the world's richest man, invited Mr. Zuckerberg down to Mexico City, to give a speech. And what did Mr. Zuckerberg promote in his speech? Well, this is the report of it. And I guess first I would note, young Mr. Zuckerberg maybe doesn't know that there's a deep American tradition, and a tradition in most developed nations, really. You don't go to a foreign capital to criticize your own government. I suppose he doesn't know about that. They probably didn't teach him that when he was at one of the elite schools he attended. This is what he said in Mexico City, quote, "A strange immigration policy for a nation of immigrants, and it's a policy unfit for today's world," close quote. So, the masters of the universe are very fond of open borders, as long as these open borders don't extend to their gated compounds and fenced-off estates. I just have to note, here's an article late last fall in Business Insider about Mr. Zuckerberg's actions. The headline is, "Mark Zuckerberg just spent more than $30 million buying 4 neighborhood houses for privacy." This is what the article says, quote, "Mark Zuckerberg just made an unusual purchase." Well, 4 purchases. Facebook's billionaire founder bought 4 homes surrounding his current home in Palo Alto. Mercury News reports the houses cost him more than $30 million, including one 2,600-square-foot home that cost $14 million. His own home is twice as large at 5,000 square feet and cost as much. Larry Page made a similar move a few years ago so he could build a 6,000-foot mansion, but Mr. Zuckerberg's reason is different. He doesn't want to live in excess. He just wants a little privacy. That's the world the average American doesn't live in. So Mr. Zuckerberg, who's become the top spokesman for expanding the admission of foreign workers, championed the Senate immigration bill that all 4 of our Democratic colleagues voted for. All of our Democratic colleagues voted for. One of the things that the bill did was double the supply of low-wage foreign workers brought into the United States for companies like Facebook. We've been told for a long time, and most of us have heard this repeatedly, that there is a shortage of STEM and IT workers. STEM are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This has been the central selling point of these massive demands for increases in foreign worker programs across the board, programs that bring in workers for every sector in the U.S. economy. But we know from the nation's leading academics, people who study this issue and are professionals in it. I have a recent op-ed here from USA Today that there is actually not a shortage but a surplus of Americans with training in STEM and IT fields, and that this is why wages have not increased since 1999. If you have a shortage of workers in a field like information technology or science and mathematics, wages go up, do they not? If wages aren't up and indeed basically down since 1999, I think the case for our free market friends is pretty clear. We don't have a shortage. So rich, high-tech companies are using the H-1B visa program to keep wages down and to hire less expensive workers from abroad. Indeed, the same companies demanding more guest workers are laying off American workers in droves. So I'd like to read some key excerpts from an article published in USA Today, co-authored recently by 5 experts of the nation on labor markets and the guest worker program. USA Today, and I think it tells a story that has not been refuted. We have partisans, advocates that have been claiming there's a shortage in these fields. But the experts say no, and since they've been speaking out on this, we've heard no real data that would dispute what they say in this article of July 27th.